Hi, everybody. I am Wendy Nystrom, your host with Environmental Social Justice. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. Lately, there has been an attack on the LGBTQ community. So I am doing some recordings with friends about being gay in the community, what it means, and their life stories. So today, I have my friend Mark Morales. He's a dear friend of mine. We travel together. We do lots of fun things together. But Mark, please just introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about you.
Well, I'm Mark Morales, Vice President of Community Reinvestment for City National Bank, and I'm Chair of the California Department of Insurance Diversity Task Force. I've been a SBA lender for over 20 years, and I've committed myself to supplier diversity over the last 7, and excited to be talking with you today, Wendy.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a funny thing, we met at the Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, and you also got me involved in Project Angel Food, which is a wonderful organization. Check them out. But we're here to talk about your story and living an authentic life in the working world, because you've had some interesting things happen in the beginning of your career. Why don't you share some of those stories?
All right. So a little painful, but we're going to have to go back in time to around 1991 or 92. And I worked for a Fortune 500 company. I was their top salesperson, and I was working my way into management, and really a top performer for the company. And during that period of time, my manager got promoted, and they brought in a manager from Arizona who had a very different perspective on diversity. The best way I can explain it is he didn't like diversity. And so systematically let go of anybody that was a woman, African-American, Hispanic, or LGBT throughout his tenure. And I felt that because I was their top salesperson, that I was protected. But if you're familiar with that phrase that when they came for me, there was no one else to speak up, that's exactly what happened to me. Yeah. And then, in the evening after everyone was gone, called me into the office and terminated me. And that was difficult because, even though everyone knew I was gay at work, I wasn't overly gay, and I wasn't bringing a lot of stuff into the office. So that night I went through, the 7 stages of grief and the next day took my resume to the competition and was hired on the spot.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. The good thing is that I got a job right away. The bad thing is, at that time, you couldn't really sue if there were no damages. And because I got a job right away, I couldn't really sue about wrongful termination. So I moved up to LA to take this new position. And for the next 19 years, I basically hid who I was at work. If you asked me, who I lived with, I would say I had a roommate. I went out with friends. If you asked me what I was doing for the weekend, I did very little social activity with people from work.
Yeah.
I realized that there can be a penalty for being your authentic self during that period of time.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2013. At that time, I purchased one of my business banking clients, and my husband was the manager of that business, and we purchased the business. And the following year, joined the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, got our business certified as an LGBT-owned business, and then attended the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce Conference. That was in 2014. And it was an amazing experience to see other business owners that, were LGBT and represented themselves that way and were running successful businesses, and how they interacted with the corporate environment. Coming back from that, I got invited by the district director of the SBA to attend the California Department of Insurance Diversity Summit. Now, I'd never been to the event before, and I was basically there to look for SBA loans because that was my day job. As I'm walking through the event, I see one of the people from the NGLCC, the National LGBT Chamber, is on the speaking agenda. When she got onto the platform and started speaking about what the organization was, she turned around and said, and we have one of our LGBT business owners in the audience, Mark Morales.
And you're like,
And I was pretty close to the front, and this was an event that was primarily people of, my peers, other bankers, people in the, insurance industry and diverse suppliers, but nobody there really knew that I was out. She didn't know that I wasn't out. So it wasn't something that I actually blame her for. I thank her for it, because at that point I decided, well, maybe this isn't something I should be hiding any longer.
Yeah.
And from there, my whole life changed. My whole perspective on being gay and being out at work really changed the direction of my career. So after attending that event, and the people from the Department of Insurance had seen that, I was an SBA lender, I was also a business owner, they invited me to be the first LGBT representative to the Diversity Task Force. This was back in 2015. And when I got there and became that person, it was really surprising to me to see, how they put together their programming, but not really thinking about how it impacted either the business owner or the corporate. And so what I was able to bring to the table is perspectives from different points of view. Mm-hmm. As a business owner, as a lender, financing small businesses, as somebody that represents, because at that time I was on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, and at that
you were president at one point, right?
I was treasurer, vice president, president, and now president emeritus.
So side jobs.
And I always say, when people say, what does that mean, emeritus? I said, it's you're not dead yet, but they don't want you to come in. So as I started working with the Department of Insurance, I started engaging the certifying bodies, not only NGLCC, but WeBank and NMSDC, and working with diverse small businesses and being able to help them build capacity, access capital for these businesses, and most importantly, to get these businesses certified and contracts with large companies. In the 7 years that I've been doing this, and I can't believe it's been 7 years. I was the ingenue when I came in, and now I'm the legacy guy that has all of the historical information, because today I serve as chair of that task force, and I'm the longest serving member, and I've outlasted all of the people at the Department of Insurance and the commissioner and all the other task force members. But my real success story here is over the last 3 years of being chair. The amount of money that is spent by insurance companies nationwide with California diverse suppliers has gone from 2.1 billion to 3.2 billion. Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's counting 2020, right? So 2019 to 2021, we've had a 50% increase in that spend with diverse suppliers. I look back at some of this stuff, and I was thinking about this, that we were going to have this conversation today. And not being out at work for those 19 years prevented me from being discriminated against. But I also think that what would have happened if I would have been out during those 19 years, considering what I've been able to accomplish in the last 7? Yes. Now, I'm not somebody who looks in the rearview mirror. I'm always somebody who looks in the out the windshield. But if anybody's listening to this broadcast, is thinking, I want you to think about, yes, you might prevent, some discrimination, but don't, minimize what you have to offer. Exactly. And if anyone's listening to this broadcast, I got stuck on that one. I have listeners. But no, the important thing that I do want to focus on, you have been discriminated against. You had no recourse at all, because back then there were no protections. You still moved forward. You didn't let it stop you, which I think is a very important message, because a lot of people could just throw up their hands and say, I can't do this. It's too hard. And you just said, this sucks, but I'm going to keep pushing forward. I'm still smart. I'm still very good at what I do. And you are very good at what you do. Didn't you say you had like one of the first small business loans for LGBTQ? Or was it during COVID? Or it was something that was first in the nation. Yes. So right after that conference, NGLCC. And tell people what NGLCC stands for. Sorry, it's actually the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, signed a memorandum of understanding with the SBA. And what they were doing was what they called business builders. And they would go from city to city and basically tell people what the SBA was and what they could offer small businesses, but specifically targeted to LGBT-owned businesses. And I spoke at a couple of those events. And after this was announced in 2015, towards the end of 2015, I did a loan for an LGBT-owned business to buy, it was a manager of a business buying the business owner because he was going to retire. And so when the loan funded, I went to the SBA district office and I said, is this the first loan since they've created this MOU, Memo of Understanding with the SBA and NGLCC in Los Angeles? And they said, we think it's the first one in the nation. And it was. And so that's how I got my first national magazine cover, was me holding the big check with the business owners and giving them the money to be able to buy their business.
You actually have been in quite a few magazines, which is pretty remarkable. I'm jealous. I'll admit that. And that is remarkable. But one of the things for younger viewers who may be struggling right now, or having trouble just dealing with some of the backlash, what would be your best advice to these men, women, non-binary? How do you push? How do you just keep your head on straight, push forward, and just ignore the noise?
Well, for me, I think about, I'm there to do a job, right? And for me, I don't want to be known as the gay banker. I want to be known as the banker who happens to be gay. Yeah. I don't let that stand in my way. If you looked at my LinkedIn profile, there's no way you would not know that I was gay, for all the things that I've done. But prior to 2013, you would never have known I was gay from my LinkedIn profile. So I embraced it. But at the end of the day, you still have to be good at what you do.
Yeah. And
if you want to make change, you have to make people see the things the way you see them, right? And help them to get to that point. I would also look at your viewers that are older. I didn't start doing this thing and start becoming famous for being, committed to supplier diversity and equality until 2015, when I turned 55. So I've been doing this for 7 years, and most people think I've been doing this my whole career.
Yeah.
But I started this, at a later stage. It's never too late to make an impact. Yeah. And all you have to do is look at what I've been able to do in the last 7 years. That has put money in the pockets of diverse-owned businesses, whether they be through the insurance companies or through our own bank and our parent company and our sister companies, in introducing those diverse suppliers to our supply chain.
That's remarkable. That's actually a really good message for good. Be good at what you're doing. Sometimes you have to work a little harder than the average person just to get yourself ahead, which is viable and important. But it's good messaging just to keep pushing forward, keep trying. And no, you should not be known as the gay banker. I mean, no one wants to be labeled. It's your banker who happens to be gay. So what? And that's what it should be. So anything on closing you'd like to tell the listener?
I meant LGBT listeners. I didn't mean the listener. Well, I'll just tell you, kind of what my mantra is at this point in time in my life. My passion is to make this world more equal, and my lane is small business and supplier diversity.
Perfect. Well, on that, guys, thank you so much. I'm Wendy Nystrom, host with Environmental Social Justice, with one of my best friends, Mark Morales. We'll see you guys later. Take care.
Thanks, Wendy.
Anytime.